Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Grid. I am Mia McCormick, along with Corey Barker here. We're your hosts today, and we're going to talk about this guy here sitting on my right.
This strange fellow.
Yeah, Mark Rodriguez. So if you recognize this mug, then you know his work. And if you don't, you're going to get introduced to it really quickly. And it's amazing. But first, Scott and RC, they're not here. They're off doing other stuff, being awesome. So
yeah, they're out traveling on the road, so they'll be back with us probably next week. I think they'll be back here. Yeah.
We're kind of happy about that because we both love Mark's work, and we've been following it for a while here.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, he gained, even more recognition. Just recently won Best of Show at the Guru Awards.
That's right.
At Photoshop World. So very congratulations there. And glad to have you here today.
So how did you feel about that award, Mark?
It was dizzying.
This is his time to give his acceptance speech here.
Yeah, it was surreal. I mean, the whole room kind of went black in my head when they said you won, announced my name, and I just kind of stumbled up to the stage, and it was just the whole moment just kind of happened, and it wasn't until after it was all done that I really kind of sunk in, and when people started coming up and congratulating me what actually happened. So it was quite an honor, very much so.
It was certainly well deserved, man. It was a great piece, and we'll show you that piece a little bit later, of course, as well as other work of his. He's got some really great stuff. So.
And for as long as we've kind of been looking at your work and following your stuff, you've actually been following Kelby one a lot longer, right? You said you have been a member since
probably 97, 98, maybe even before that. 96, 97.
Wow.
I mean, it was almost since the inception of Kelby One I've been a member
Wow.
of one way or another. I took a small break when I was in college, just, ramen noodles, and I had to make a difference.
We've all been there.
Make a choice. So there was a small moment, but since almost the inception of Kelby Media, or Kelby Training back then. Actually, it was just, I think, NAP back then. So when it first started. So yeah,
NAP.
Is like.
We remember NAP.
Yes.
So what I want to do is I want to at least let people know the type of photographer that you are. So you do a lot of self-portraiture,
yes,
and you're a conceptual artist. So explain your work a little bit to us, and we're going to show some of it here so you can take a look at some of the images that he does. And I want you to it's best for you to explain it, I think, other than somebody else trying to.
Best way to describe my work would be eclectic. I'm influenced by everything around me, so everything around me tends to find its way into my work. So it could be something out of pop culture, it could be something that's going on in society, it could be something that happens personally. Just everything is a conglomeration that at some point finds its way into my work. So I don't really have a so to speak, recipe or method to how it comes. It's just whatever that feeling is, and at that moment, and then it goes into the work. So some pieces more than others are more thought out. Some are very spontaneous. Something will hit me, I'll jump up from my desk, run out to my garage and shoot something if I can clear space in there to shoot without bikes and toys and everything else that gets thrown into the garage. But some shots are extremely thought out and layered with meaning, whether it's on the surface level or deeper, it's in there somewhere. So.
And so there was a shot that was just up. That was actually the one. Can we show that one that he won the award for? Okay,
yeah, there it is, right there.
So what did you name this?
This is actually put on a happy face. I've been doing for the past several years on Google Plus. It's an event more than people think it's a competition, but it's an event called the Krista Ray Photography Scavenger Hunt.
There's just a few of them in the chat today.
Yeah.
So the couple of people there that follow your work there and are part of it with you. But I'm curious about it because we talked about it a little bit earlier. So tell me about it.
It's more than just, it's to me sort of an anomaly on the internet because it's, aside from, dedicated sites, it's a community of photographers and artists. The whole thing was started by Krista Ray a few years back, and it's just a great way for photographers just to kind of help each other. And you're given a list of 10 words. Krista comes up with a list of 10 words, and it's up to you as a photographer to interpret them photographically. So you can be as literal as you want, or you can take the word and go as far as you want in the complete opposite direction. Like that particular shot, the word was happy. So that was my take on the word happy. Maybe, yes, the person is happy, but there could be some sadness or something going on behind the scenes that you don't see. So again, you could take take it as far as you want to go, and I took it in a complete opposite direction, which is the beauty of the hunt is you will see, all these different interpretations of one single word, and there may not be any two that are alike. So it's a great thing and a great community. All of the photographers and artists in that community are just extremely caring and giving, supportive of each other, very encouraging. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
It sounds like that community has been important to your work too.
Extremely. It's kind of funny. Through the first couple hunts, I signed up and I never submitted anything. So through the first probably 4 or 5, I started feeling bad because I would sign up, but then I wouldn't submit because it's limited to the first 500 people who sign up. So if you don't get in on the registration, and that sign up usually goes within 15, 20 minutes. Wow. The sign up sheet is, crazy. It goes fast when the sign up is put online. And so Krista, I'd emailed Krista. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna back out. I'm not going to do it. I keep taking someone's spot, and she's like, no, you need to give it one more try. And I even made this funny image of me sitting in front of a chalkboard with "I will not sign up for Krista Ray" written 100 times with me in a dunce cap, oh, I won't do this anymore. I won't sign up for the scavenger hunt. So I was on my way out the door, and she was like, no, you need to do it. You've got to. And so I finally started submitting to it, and just little by little, I kept adding, pushing each time, pushing it a little further, pushing it a little further until, I'm kind of at the point I am now and still pushing it, So it's been just a kind of a really, really, really great experience.
That's really great.
What I love is how those things illustrate you as a concept artist. And I'd like, if we could, pull up the birds of a feather picture where you're covered in feathers, because I think that this is there's a great story with how you shot this and why. And it started from one of those scavengers, right? So you have this idea, you're given this word, and you have this concept, or you have just this word. How do you turn that into... How do you develop that into this image? What was the word?
The word for this one was just the word feather. And, I started by kind of going through all the images that first come to mind. So a feather, a bird's wing, and then I started thinking a little further, what are the things, or where else do you find feathers? Well, sometimes they're in pillows. You could tickle somebody with a feather, things like that. And then I was like, no, I want to go further. So I remembered back there was a picture I saw from back in the Revolutionary days of, I don't remember if it was the harbor master or something. He had been tar and feathered, and they're pouring hot tea down his throat, and so that image kind of was like, okay, the Boston Tea Party, tar and feathers. So it started from there, but I didn't want a violent picture. I wanted it to be funny, so I kind of turned it where, okay, yes, he did get tar and feathered, but he still got his cup of tea. So he was still happy about the whole thing. It wasn't so bad. He still got his tea. He was still happy. And
what did you have to do, Mark, to make these feathers stick? Because those, I know some of them are, but they're not all photoshopped in. Right?
No, they're not. I really was covered in feathers. I took a bottle of dark Caro syrup and covered my entire body, my upper torso with dark Caro syrup, ripped open a down pillow and started just pushing the feathers into the syrup all over me. And
the lengths one will go to get there.
Exactly. And it was the middle of August in my garage in Florida. So it's, you know what the temperatures can get like in there. So I started to sweat. So as I was sweating, the feathers started sliding. So I had to add more syrup and then more feathers and then try and get shots off in between it sliding down. So I got good patches of it all over me at different times. And then I kind of photoshopped together the pieces that were still stuck to me that weren't sliding down to kind of finally put together that finished shot. So yeah, I'll go through pretty much just about anything to get the shot.
At least in that case, it worked out in the end.
Yes, yeah. Yes, it did.
And that's what I love, the dedication that you have to, I mean, when you commit to an idea, and you can see it in the images of his, when he commits to something, I mean, it's down to the details, the finest, smallest details. This man won't stop until he gets it exactly what's in his head. Well, but it's for you. That's what's awesome, is the only person you're doing it for is you.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, at the end of the day, that is who I want to impress first. First and foremost, if I'm not impressed, how can I think anyone else is going to be impressed with it? So if when I'm done, I sit back and am not just amazed. You spoke about it a couple weeks back in one of the grids. You were talking about that, like you sometimes sit back and look at your work
and just look at your own.
You're kind of freaked out that you actually did it.
Yeah.
You're like, there's no way that I just did that. And that's the point that I want to get with my work. I want to get to a point where I look at it and can't believe that I did it. And then I feel I'm finished with it. If I get it to a point where I can't even believe I did it, then I think it's ready for others to see.
There's still to this day things I've done. I'll look at a piece and I still don't remember how I did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's effect I want to replicate. I'm like, I want to do that again, but I don't remember.
I don't remember the steps. I don't remember what shading I did, how I did this, what brush I used. There's.
You just get in a zone and things just come together, and you're just by the time you're done and when you recognize what you've done, you don't know how you did it.
Right.
You're
exactly.
Like, it's an interesting. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying there.
That's it. Exactly.
So do you constantly surprise yourself? Because one of the things that I noticed is, for me at least, when I see your images, they're very emotive. So I have an emotional reaction to it, an initial reaction. Like Mark and I did an inspirational interview this morning that you'll get to see coming up in the next couple of months here on Kelby One. So if you want even to get down deeper, like way below the surface with
sure
Mark,
you want that?
sit in. We don't cover anybody in syrup, and
More of an
there's no
interrogation
feathers,
than an interview.
But
I was in the red chair.
But it's really good. So, and you have a blog post out today, scottkelby.com. You can see.
I was very thankful that he and Brad gave me the opportunity to write that, because it's actually a very personal piece, and it contributes to everything we're talking about here and my self-portrait work in general, and how personal it is for me at times, and why I do what I do. So like I said, it's a very, very personal piece. And I was just very, very thankful that I was able to write it and share it with others.
I love that you put the captions in there with it that kind of explain, because like I said, when I see your work, there is almost always an immediate reaction to it. Like we discussed earlier with the clown, when I first saw the clown, I was like, oh no, he didn't do that, because it was almost like there's immediate, like this.
There's an intriguing shock value.
Right.
Right away when you see it.
But then it does, but that's not where it ends. And that's the thing, is there's underneath, there's all of these layers that kind of go with it. And then you start to identify it. So it's really awesome to hear you explain out these images and the thought process that was in your head behind it, because at face value, which is where we kind of talked about the twisted mind of Mark Rodriguez, because some of it does kind of seem very dark. We saw the zombie picture that your wife, I'm sure, willingly sat down and,
absolutely.
and did with you. But it can seem a little bit dark, and some of it with the guns, and there's with the clown, and maybe even a little violence. But when you explain it out, there's always this kind of multi-layered reason behind it.
Well, there is, and I try. I never try and go for just pure shock value. I mean, there's artists out there that do it, and they do a great job at it. But I'm not in it for just the shock value, and that's with say like the clown picture. That's what I wanted to do, was get you in just initially with that sort of presence, but then hold you there, and to where you kind of see the underlining picture. So I could have, originally when I was thinking up the shot and drawing it up, originally I was going to have him have a real gun, and it was going to be even darker, but then it would have pushed away people that wouldn't have seen the other side of it, because they would have immediately, it's a real gun. He really did kill himself, but I added just that enough humor in there that
it's an interesting contrast of the drama and trauma of it, but also the humor of it.
Right,
and that the spatters in all those colors. It's kind of happy in a way, in a very ironic way. So.
And funny enough, that word, that's another scavenger hunt shot, the word was colorful. That's all I had to go by.
Yeah.
Was the word colorful. So, taking a concept from just a word, it can be extremely challenging, but that's what I also love about the scavenger hunt is it's motivational. It is a challenge. It's something that you when you get the list, you're just like, okay, what am I going to do? And all the participants, they are on the same wavelength, where they're like, what is, this person going to do for this word, or what am I going to, and you can't wait to see what everyone else is going to come up with. And it's very agonizing because from the time you get the list till the time reveals happen is sometimes almost a 2 month span, 2 or 3 month span. So you'll have finished work that you can't post, but at the same time, you can't see anyone else's work until then also. So it's like this just built up anticipation, like just waiting for Christmas morning, and it never comes, and then finally it comes, and then the reveals come, and you start seeing what everybody did, and you start being able to comment on people's pictures and start really enjoying it, and it's just like this big release of this is awesome, and then it starts all over again. And so
we have a question, just what's the name of the community again that people want to know?
It's the Krista Ray's Photography Scavenger Hunt, and
it's on Google Plus.
It's on Google Plus. See, everyone says it's a ghost town. They're wrong. Very wrong. It is still thriving, quite thriving.
Can you spell that out? I guess.
ChrystARae. So Krista Ray. Krista Ray's Photography Scavenger. Now it's there. I don't remember if she actually established, so to speak, a public community, but what it is each round of the hunt, anyone who's participating in the hunt is in it is a closed community, but you're allowed
you have to
share.
Sign up and register to be involved each time. Now, is it like a yearly thing, or
it's every hunt has a new sign up. So if you don't get in on that sign up that I say goes so quickly, then
so how
you have
often?
to wait till it's about it runs in about, I say, like I said, 2 month cycles. So you get the list, the sign up, then the list, then you have about a month and a half, 2 months to get your shots, then the reveals come, and then you move on from there. So
you have 2 months. I'd wait till that last week.
I'm always
I
perpetuate all the time. In fact, there was one that I did where I've got a strawberry, and my tongue is the strawberry, and I'm eating it, or I'm actually tonguing the strawberry. The word was strawberry, and literally shot it, processed it, and submitted it 15 minutes before the deadline. I went up my garage. I'm like, all right, I finally know what I was going to do with it, because I personally don't submit a shot if I can't put the time into it and do it properly and how I feel I want to do it. So if the concept isn't strong enough, or I just don't feel I can pull it off the way that it needs to be pulled off, I won't do it. So this one I kept kicking around, and then finally I was like, all right, I'm going to do it, and then jumped in there and knocked it out.
Well, I love the scenario that it presents, because I've always talked about it's problem solving.
It is.
You're presented clues or in a mystery sort of, and you've got to figure it out.
Yep.
And as a creative person, I love that. That intrigues me about a project, is when it's a problem that you have to solve.
I love finding solutions.
I can see that fun aspect of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you build a lot of solutions actually yourself in your garage, and we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll learn a little bit more about what Mark goes through to put together some of these sets and make these images. So we'll be right back.
I was very, very fortunate to shoot on location at an unbelievable place. The problem was when I posted the shots online, people would go, oh, well, sure, if you get to shoot in a place like that, you can make great shots. They're right. So what we wanted to do in this class is be able to show you how some of those shots were created that looked like they were done in the multi-million-dollar mansion, but we actually did them on an incredibly low budget. All you need to do is be a little clever, and you can create some amazing images.
I'm Cliff Mountner. I've always envisioned taking Kelby One for an inside look at how I approach a real wedding. This is authentic. This is an actual client that has allowed me to capture their day and bring Kelby One along. You're going to see how I approach every element of the day. We're talking about an overall view at my approach. I really hope you take a moment to check out my brand new classes, A Real Wedding, live and uncensored, only on kelby1.com.
Well, welcome back. We are talking to Mark Rodriguez here about his incredible self-portraiture, which, of course, everybody shortens to selfies, but his work is way different than what you see on Facebook that's deemed selfies.
He takes selfies to a whole new level.
Right. Selfies usually implies narcissism, of which, if you've met this guy, there is not a lot of that there. But you go to very great lengths to take pictures of yourself. You
That
between the props that you use and all of the processing that you do, and you do this all in your garage?
Pretty much either my garage or my backyard.
So what are some of the things that you've built for your shots? Like you did one recently that you were telling me about that was an electric chair.
Yes, I built a full-scale electric chair. Not working, though. I've threatened my daughters if they get bad grades, I will make it working. I've built a 16-foot cross that I put myself up on. What else have I done? Well, the feathers, doing that. But I've even put myself through torture and things. Like I've made myself physically sick from chain smoking a cigar to try and get just the right amount of smoke coming out of my mouth for a shot. So just shot after shot, inhaling a cigar. Not like I couldn't enjoy it. I was just trying to get the shot. I've just about broke my neck jumping backwards onto mattresses off an 8-foot ladder to get a shot of me looking like I'm falling off of a ladder, and I put my gear in harm's way all the time too, because for that shot I had my camera almost like jibbed over, pointing down with weights and bungee cords holding back my tripod so that it didn't fall over.
Now, are you doing all this setup by yourself, or do you have an assistant? This is all just you?
All me, completely. Every part of it is me. I almost burned my camera setting my wife on fire.
Whoa! So she's down for all of this too?
Yes, and it's not often that you send your wife a text saying, I want to burn you at the stake, and she actually gets excited about it and then responds back, oh, that's awesome, when can we do it? So, I again had my camera up on a C-stand about 10, 15 feet in the air, pointed down towards an area, and after I'd gotten the shots of her and my daughters in the shot, I got them out of there and then actually literally lit the stake and everything I had around it on fire. And I was trying to get some nice embers coming up, so I was stoking it and jabbing at it, and there was these gusts of wind started coming up, so I was getting these flames curling up into my camera. The embers were going up and hitting the lens, so I'm real rough on my gear, and whatever it takes to get the shot, I'm gonna do it, because if I see that shot in my head, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get that shot.
Have you?
I know that.
You lost gear in this process?
What's that?
Have you lost gear in this process?
No, only that I had a tripod set up in the garage for a shot, and my daughter knocked it over pulling a bike out. So again, there's occupational hazards in working at home.
And I'm sure there's situations where you have a grand idea and you probably go to great lengths to try to get the shot. It just never works out. I mean, there's probably many a project that it just didn't happen. Huh?
Absolutely. I scrap ideas all the time. Yeah. I mean, or I'll scrap it and start all over again. There was one with ladybugs in another scavenger hunt, and I put live ladybugs all over my chest, all over my face. I bought online, you can buy boxes of ladybugs, and I bought 1,500 ladybugs. I laid on the ground with my remote, poured them on my face.
Where do you go and buy these things?
I found them online. and
I need roughly 1,500 ladybugs.
Yeah, exactly. Probably
that doesn't raise an eyebrow at all.
1,500. And they kept falling off, and I got them remotely where I needed them, then got them into Photoshop and copied a couple of them and started, manipulating them around. And it's probably spent about 6 or 8 hours on it, and then hated it. It was like, it wasn't looking believable. It was looking kind of crappy. So I scrapped the whole thing, started all over again, and redid the whole shot again. So. Whatever, like I said, whatever it takes. I've reshot things numerous times just to make sure I get what.
It's frustrating for sure. I've started many a project and just get to a point. You get up to a point a long way along.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, this isn't working.
Yeah, just
throw it away and just forget it.
Yeah, you get to that point where you're just like, it's just not. You think, okay, I've got this one more trick that I can maybe make it work or bring this in, and then you're just like.
Well, on the flip side of that, then tell me if you run into this. I run into this all the time. It's picking a point to stop.
That's what I want to say, because you're so dedicated. I mean, you ordered 1,500 ladybugs. You were dedicated to this concept, to this idea. So when do you pull the plug?
When I've just finally, either my eyes are too tired at night and I'm just like, all right, I think I'm done, or I just feel, you never feel you're finished with any kind of artwork. personally, there's always something I see even after I post it where I'm like, God, I wish I had just fixed that one little thing.
Well, even for images that do work, there's images I could keep working on for hours.
Yeah.
It's just you know what, I have to stop. I'm going to ruin it eventually if I keep working.
That's another thing that happens. You keep pushing it too far, and then you go over the hill, and then you start regressing on the shot. So
I wanna ask a couple other questions. Somebody wants to know how many have you lost any wives in these shoots? I'm just kidding. But that is actually a question. But is your creative talent self-taught, or did you go to school for this? Do you have a background in this?
No. I would say a good portion that I learned either one I learned online through like Kelby One, through using either when I first started out, I had all of Scott's introductory to photography books, all of those, and things like that. So just trial and error. I'd go out in my garage and just try things, and I'd buy equipment that I thought I needed. When I first started out, I thought all I wanted to do was macro, and then I went from macro to landscape. Then I went from landscape to portrait work, and nothing was really, I was doing it, and I was getting better at it, but I knew each one, when I left it, wasn't what I wanted to be doing, so I kept going at it, and it was almost as a fluke that I started doing self-portraits because on, again, Google+, there was Levi Moore and Jeff Smith had this bi-weekly theme called Selfie Sunday. And I was watching, looking in at it every other week, and there was just some great photographers in there taking self-portraits. And I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. And I always had sort of a negative connotation of what self-portraits were. I did think it was kind of narcissistic, and I didn't understand it. And I was like, well, let me just see. And I did it, and then I kept doing it. And the more I kept doing it, the more I saw it wasn't about that. And actually, it's an extremely disciplined way to learn, because you have to take on all the roles. You have to be the actor or the model and set up the shot. And to me, it actually sped up the process of learning, because I could test on myself, things. And where I live, I don't really live kind of out in somewhat of the suburbs, so I didn't have a lot of models around me or anything like that. So I was like, I could go out in my garage at 2 and 3 in the morning if I wanted to, and just play around with lights for hours, and sometimes I still do. But so the fact that I didn't have model and I had just myself, it just kind of evolved to that, and I just kept doing it, and now I know that that's what I like to do, and I'm become known for it. So I've kind of embraced it and kind of pushed myself and that's actually what I kind of sort of describe myself now as a self-portrait artist. When people ask what do you do, that's kind of the main theme of my work is I'm a self-portrait artist, and to me it's not a negative connotation anymore, because I do see the benefit in it. I do see the different ways that it can help you personally, even and also ways that you can teach yourself that you might not be able to teach if, say, you had a model there and you're worried about, oh, I'm taking up their time, where if it's just yourself, you only have yourself to blame if you're there all night.
Well, especially, and I'm sure this happens to you on a lot of occasions, you're thinking the shot out as you're doing it. Typically with a model, you got to have the shoot mapped out and ready to go, and you know what you're going to be shooting for.
Exactly.
And I know, because I know when I've done shoots for myself, either people or even just still lives, I like knowing I'm sorting things out as I'm doing it. I change things around, and I come up with a new idea right on the fly like that. So when yourself is the model, then that makes it easier, of course.
So technically, how are you doing it? You have like something that you focus on where your head is going to be?
Yes. I have a mask of Pinhead from Hellraiser that I have on a mannequin head.
Surprised. Not at all.
He's my sidekick, and he's been with
just
me
a regular mannequin head just will not do.
Yes, it will not do. So that's my stand-in. So he's been my buddy for many years now. So
you do have an assistant of sorts.
Okay. He's from hell, though. So I usually, I'll kind of know whereabouts I'm going to set up. So I'll put that there first, and I'll get the general focus. And usually I shoot somewhat wide open, between f8, f11, and I'm shooting with strobes most of the time, so I know I can control the light. So I'll get a pretty decent depth of field so that I can move within the frame. You know, I know I've got leeway that if I need to, I can kind of move around and not be out of focus. I'll lock the focus, and then I shoot tethered. So I've got my laptop on a little stand in front of me, so I can take a picture and you know, kind of eyeball down out of the corner of my eye and see where it's going. If I need to move left, need to move right, change my expression, something's out of place, I can kind of eyeball it as I'm going. So I just set up the timer and let it, you know, click off in 10-second increments so that I can take a shot, look at it enough, and then reposition and then go with the next one. And generally, I mean, depending on the shot, you know, I'll take sometimes 200 or 300 shots before I get the look that I need for the particular shot. So sometimes it comes quick, you know, maybe 10, 20 shots and I've got it, but there's been some that have taken like upwards around 500 or 600 shots before I got it right.
Workflow of being photographer and model on set, you know, you've really got to plan all those roles. You probably developed some really interesting solo workflows in that regard.
It's yeah, and you know, it's nice because it's nice quiet time for me too. I mean, it actually is a time to kind of reflect and when I went to design school, you know, you learn problem solving, and that's where it really comes into play. Sure. when you're being an active participant in it and trying to figure out things. If things aren't working, then you got to start anew. Like you thought this lighting setup would probably get it. Well, it's not. So what do I got to do? Let's change it. You know, don't just keep trying to make the one lighting setup work. Keep going until you've got it. So that I love that part about it, that, you know, I can spend all that time on it and not worry that I've got a model sitting there bored or tired or hungry, wants to go home. Now, eventually, I'd like to work more with models, and I do some occasionally some like portrait work, but it's not something that I, so to speak, push anymore. For a while, I was like, okay, I gotta be a portrait photographer and put that out there, and I've kind of pulled all that stuff, a lot of that from my social media sites, because that's not what I really want to do. So I've kind of put out there what I want to do and the work that I want to be known for. So
nice.
So then how could that translate into getting paid?
Well, what I'd like to eventually start doing, and what I'm kind of working towards, is creating sort of unique experiences for people. So actually taking what I do with the concept photography and my self-portraiture and working with somebody that, instead of just taking a photo, we work on a concept, and whether I have to build props for it, you know, depending on all that, that's how, you know, work out pricing and stuff. But to where it's more, you're having more of an experience than just coming and taking a picture. So it's something that the person, whoever the client might be, they feel they have an active part in it, that they came up, you know, helped develop the concept, or they had a little more say in it, and do things that, you know, unconventional portraiture, I guess, is how I would kind of approach it.
People may have an idea for a scenario. I've actually had people ask me to put them in their favorite movie posters.
Oh yeah,
well, stuff like that. So
that's something I don't promote. Like I don't put on my website and stuff, but I do a thing called Movie Mashup Tuesday on G+, and with myself and Isabel Fortain, and it's this thing where we would take a movie poster and then take one of our friends from G+ and put them into the poster. And it's, again, a good exercise in matching colors and color values and angles and things like that, because you're dealing with, you know, a picture that's just been given to you, basically, you know, with a profile picture or whatever you can get from that person, and then trying to incorporate that into a movie poster. Now, the reason I don't put it on my website or promote it is because obviously that's copyright material.
There's a copyright issue there, of course.
I never try and promote that as something I do or offer as a service, because, you know, I don't want to get involved with that. But it is a fun, really good exercise that I always tell people, give it a try, because it's you learn things about Photoshop, you know, when you're working with, you know, adjustment layers and things like that, and how to make it work, that it's believable, and it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I can see that.
One of our buddies from Photoshop World, Alex from Mexico. Hi, Alex. Say hi, Alex.
My buddy.
He wants to know, what would your advice be to people to find your thing besides just going out and shooting different stuff?
Patience.
Agree with that, man.
I mean, I jokingly say that I got into photography for the ladies because when my daughters were born, that's when I bought my camera. So,
Oh, I see.
I got into photography for my ladies. And I just, trying different things is good because you do see what you do like and you don't like. Now, what I'd suggest you don't do is go out and just buy a ton of gear right off the bat. Learn what you think you want to do first and then move from there. Like I said, at first all I had was a 100 millimeter macro lens, and I worked with that for almost a year and a half, almost 2 years before I then moved up and got a wide angle lens. And then I discovered wide angle and a whole new world opened up. So it was a different experience. So then that's all I shot with for quite a while was my wide angle. So I would say just kind of, test the waters and see what sticks. There's companies like Borrow Lens and things like that you could rent a lens just to see what, because every lens is going to give you a different emotion, a different feeling. And when you start realizing what those lenses do and the emotion tied to each one, then you start knowing where you're going to apply it. So when I'm setting up for a shot, I've already in my mind started figuring out what lens I'm going to use because every lens is going to give you a different emotion, how you set it up, how the angle, how far back you are, how close you are. That's all going to give a completely different look and a completely different emotion.
A sign of an artist is when you choose a lens based on the feeling it gives you, not because it gives you a certain image.
Absolutely.
It's because of the way it makes it feel, yeah.
Well, what I want to know with you specifically is kind of what brought you to the point where everybody, when you first get a camera, you're pointing it at everything, trying to find what clicks, so to speak, right? What speaks to you. But you have made the leap at some point that it's not what you're pointing at, that somehow your inspiration came from in here first, and you're using this tool to create the thing that was in here. So you made that leap, that it wasn't something necessarily that I was pointing at that's inspiring me. It was me trying to create the work that's in my head. And I think that's kind of where the question is how did you figure that out?
Well, I would suggest, like I said, maybe pick like themes. Most social media, they have I know Flickr does, and like I said, G+ and even Facebook and stuff have sort of theme days. And it's a good way to kind of test doing things with like-minded people so that you don't get sort of uncomfortable. So say there's, I don't know, Fido Friday or something, where you shoot animals or Catter Day, or you shoot your cat, try different themes. And it's a way to kind of get your pictures out to maybe like-minded people to kind of just see what their feeling is, I guess, of what you're doing. If you're looking for sort of validation in what you're doing. Now, personally, I've always kind of considered myself, I'm an artist first, photographer second. I don't consider myself really a photographer. I'm an artist that uses a photographer as one of my mediums. So that's just
that would be me too.
Another way to look at it. And so it was just a quick way, for me to be able to get an idea out much quicker than for me to draw it. Like I do illustration work as well, but you've got to dedicate some serious time usually to, not that I don't with the photography, but to doing illustration. You've got to sit down, but with the photography, it was a little more instant gratification to start off with, and then I would build on top of that. So personally, I would see an image in my head, and I would want to get to that point. So I learned the photography to get that image going, and then sort of finish it off with what I do maybe in Photoshop and stuff like that.
So you saw the end goal, and there was an obstacle in the way. Photography was the obstacle, and that was with me too. I knew to do what I was going to be able to do. I was eventually going to have to shoot my own stuff.
Yep.
So I had to figure out photography as part of my work.
I was kidding around at me. I said I think we share brains because everything you were saying the other day in that one grid when you were talking about Daniel Gregory's class, which is phenomenal. You guys got to check it out because it is awesome.
Plug for Daniel.
Was like everything you were saying. I was like yes. It was like. Everything is like, yes, exactly. That was exactly it.
Right on the same page, right there.
Same page.
All right, we've got to take one more quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into Mark's post-processing work. So what he does, these guys are going to kind of get together with that shared brain and talk about how he creates, from the image that he has, from his camera to what you see. So we're going to get to take a look at a little bit more of his work when we come back.
Hey guys, this is Jeremy Cowart. We're here in South Beach. This class is all about working with limited light, short time frames, very tight locations, not a lot to work with. Shoot in very limited locations because that's what I'm usually dealt with.
Hi, I'm Richard Burnaby. Welcome to the beautiful Blue Ridge Parkway of North Carolina. We're going to go on a photographic road tour, photographing waterfalls, sunrises, sunsets, terrain landscapes, mountains. We're going to talk about gear, we're going to talk about camera settings, and most importantly, we're going to talk about my thought process that goes into each of the compositions, the locations we visit. So I hope you check out my brand new class only on kelby1.com.
Create your own space at squarespace.com.
Hey, welcome back to The Grid, where we are here with Mark Rodriguez, and now we are going to actually look into how he creates the work that he does. So, Corey, you've got his website up, and you have, what is the website, by the way, for people?
It's either markrodriguez.photography or godriguez.photography.
Godriguez, which we have to talk a little bit about that nickname. So tell us briefly where that came from. Because you'll see it a lot in the chat. You've probably seen it. If you're in the chat now, you've seen Godriguez.
There was a comment thread, I think it was on Facebook, and I was talking to somebody. Well, even to step back from that, back when I first started learning Photoshop, and I'd be, say, out somewhere, and I'd be taking a picture with, like, of a building or something, and there'd be people everywhere. In my head, I was always saying, "I'm going to remove you all." Like I was playing God in my head because I knew I was going to be able to remove all these people from in front of the building that were there. So that I always kind of thought that. So my tagline actually is. I'm not a god, but I play one in Photoshop. So on my website, and so that was something in a comment thread, and I can't remember what my friend said, but I was like, I'm not a god, but I play one in Photoshop. You may call me Godriguez, and it just stuck. And ever since then, I've sort of come to be known as Godriguez.
That's funny.
So you actually put out here, and this is what I love, is that you have a very unique look to the work that you do, but you're willing to just openly share it and tell people how you achieved it. And you have a section of your website where you show how you created it through a time lapse, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to see. Yeah, this is the zombie picture with your wife.
That's my wife.
So we're going to play it, and I want you to kind of talk us through it.
Okay. This was a shot again for. Another scavenger hunt shot, and the word was bite. So the simple word was bite. Now it's an homage to a previous scavenger hunt shot I did, which was called Romance, which was an homage to the Lady and the Tramp, where we both had a string of spaghetti between our lips and we were looking at each other. So this was a new version of that, and so I, shot it. You can see I shot it all, just plain.
All the makeup was created.
All of the makeup is done in Photoshop. So what you're seeing, awesome. Of course, not real time, but all of the makeup.
Colin, we can work that fast, can't you?
Yes, yeah. Of course. People think you can. They just push a button and it's done. But exactly. So what you're seeing is, a sped up version, obviously, of all of the makeup, everything being added in post production. Now that's, again, I'm not that great of a makeup artist. I'm a better painter artist than I am a makeup artist, so it's quicker and easier for me to do this than if I had, tried to paint us up and make us look like that. And to me, I've got more control. Like if I didn't do the makeup right, and then it can actually have been harder to go back after the fact and get rid of stuff had I done it that way. So personally, this way works for me better than it does if I had done actual makeup, because I can put things where I want them to be. I can remove things much easier, and it's just a much easier process for me, and much more mindset, and I can work quickly, more more quickly this way than I actually could if I had done actual makeup. So this is just kind of, like I said, running through the whole process and then finishing up. Now I go back and forth. I start in Lightroom, then I go to Photoshop, and then I almost always finish back in Lightroom. I do some finishing touches always in Lightroom, so I almost always finish in Lightroom. It's like a back process that I do. And I use, the only plugin I use is Nik Silver Effects Pro, and that's only to get a little grit in there, a little sharpening that I then usually drop down. But other than that, it's all straight out of the box Photoshop tools that I use. I don't use any extra plugins or anything like that. So
it's similar to some things I do. Is an interesting blend of illustrated and photographic elements.
And that's what I like.
Because my degree, I studied illustration in school. That's what my degree is in. But when I discovered Photoshop in my 4th year, I realized I could take all the cool illustrated techniques I learned, all the traditional stuff, and bring that into Photoshop because I had all the tools that could do that and support that. So I can totally see how, if I was to approach something like that, I would have done the same thing. I would have probably just illustrated, get the base photos in place and built the effect around it.
And that's what I do. Similar, I did. I don't know if you have up the Kiss photo where I'm all 4 members from the solo albums.
Oh yeah, we have that one. She can grab it real quick.
That's another one. All the makeup was done in that one.
There you
all,
go, yeah.
all the make. Now I was in whiteface. I did do whiteface.
Mm-hmm.
All the gelling is straight out of camera. So the colors on the face was
shot that way?
Straight out of camera.
Okay.
So the lighting is out of camera. The makeup from top to bottom, other than the whiteface, was all done in Photoshop. So. And that was actually a real fun one to do because trying to figure out how to do Ace's sort of silver tint makeup, and Peter Criss even has on his nose sort of a silverish tint.
Yeah.
Trying to mimic that in Photoshop was a real challenge, and I don't even remember how I ended up doing it. Again, I did it, and I don't remember. I probably couldn't replicate it, but I remember spending a lot of time on Ace's makeup, getting that metallic look to it, and then trying to just blend it flat into the other, into the face, so it didn't look like it was just stuck on there, and figuring out the contours and things like that. Like what I always say is, with doing composite work and with doing, any kind of photo manipulation like that, it's you have to almost come at it from a sort of physics mindset, because you've got to understand, and I always tell people also, take a life drawing class or take some artistic classes, because if you're going to do composite work, because there's principles in place that are always going to be there. There's the way shadows fall off of things. There's the way things curve. There's ambient light. All of that is in nature. It's always going to be there. Once you understand it, which you learn in drawing classes, you'll understand how to apply it in composites to make it believable. So you kind of have to be part artist, part physics major to try and kind of put that stuff together. But to me, that's something I always tell people. If you want to, do good compositing, understand physics, the physics of light, especially, because that's all photography is. So understand the physics of light, but more importantly, understand the physics of curvature and how things react when they curve. Understand how, things, when they're near or far, what the perspective, what's going to happen to them. So in a way, you got to be part scientist, part artist when you're to get, so to speak, believable.
Well, it's true what you say. When you're recreating reality, even if it's a surreal reality, there's still rules in place as far as lighting and shadow and what colors look like in shadow versus what they look like in bright light and everything like that. And like you say, understanding the physics of light. I actually have a book on the physics of light.
Oh, really?
That studied the very same thing. And another thing I tell people is study the color theory. Color theory is a very important part of it, and understanding how colors mix, understanding the color wheel and how complements work and stuff like that. That can only help you no matter what you're doing, photography, design, artist. I mean, it really doesn't matter. It all applies. So.
I'm curious about the processing on the zombie image. So we saw the time lapse. How long did it take in real time?
I think that was about 6 hours in post-edit. I think somewhere around there. I'd maybe give or take a little bit, but
come on, man, that took you 6 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
Slacker.
Look.
Yeah, it was probably somewhere around there. I'd say it was over the span of 2 days, broken up.
Now, do you typically do yours? Because I typically do mine in 1 or 2 sittings, my pieces.
Depending on the piece, like depending on when I start it. If it's already late at night, probably not. But if I can, I like to get it all done in one shot, and then come back the next day and look at it again and see. lot of times, you know, you come back and you go, oh, okay, and I might hit it here and there, or maybe change some things, but you know, it depends on how much time I need to put into the piece. Some go quicker than others. Some I'm done editing, you know, in an hour, if that, and some just keep going and going and going. Like, you know, with that one, I was very meticulous, you know, with the fingernails and everything, trying to get the dirt and the blood under the nails and everything. So in a way, you could say, well, that took you more time than to do it, you know, with makeup, but it's more gratifying for me to do it that way.
Yeah.
So than to have actually done it with makeup. And to me, I like that painterly effect. I like that you don't know where the photograph ends and the illustration begins. So I like that marriage of the two, and trying to, like I say, incorporate my illustration into my work to where it just kind of becomes one piece. And like I said, I don't consider myself a photographer, more of an artist. So it is just a piece of art. It's not that it's a photograph, and that goes, you know, the whole, oh, you use Photoshop debate. I just throw it out the window because screw that. I'm making art. There's no rules to art. I'm making
Absolutely.
art. My art, what I like.
You, like me, we're both shooting for the composite. We're shooting for Photoshop.
Oh, no, absolutely.
It's like, you manipulated that in Photoshop. Of course. That's was my whole point.
Exactly.
And the thing about your work, I think that really caught all of our eye so much that you stated very well, is kind of that blend of where does the photograph end and where does Photoshop begin, because you blend that line so masterfully that to me that's the biggest thing that stands out about your work that really drew me in when we saw it the first time. So I'm sure a lot of people want to know, what's your day job?
I'm an animator. I do cartoons.
So still artistic.
Still artistic. I work with a gentleman named Steve Goldman. I collaborate with him for a nonprofit called YU.org. That's YU, like almost like Y University. YU.org, and we produce math animations. So I created a character, a cast of characters, and I play the main character, Professor von Schmohawk, and he talks you through learning math. We've gone through pre-algebra, and now we're working our way through algebra. And they're like in, you know, maybe 10-minute, you know, bites, little segments, and you know, explaining some pretty high-end math and stuff, but bringing it to a level, not dumbing it down, but just stating it in very clear level, using visualization and other means, supporting with real world situations and how to apply it. So it's, I mean, it's been very successful. We've have over 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we've had over 3 million hits. We're being introduced into curriculums around the world, so it's
nice.
It's a good thing because it is nonprofit. There's no barrier of entry, so I feel, you know, what we're producing is benefiting society as a whole. It's not something, you know, he's just wants to give it away for free, so we don't charge anything for it. It's, like I said, on our site or on our YouTube channel, everything is totally free.
So we have a question in the chat that wants to know, how do you know when a piece is finished? How do you know when it's done?
When I'm just done working on it.
When your eyes can't stay open, toothpicks aren't holding them open.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about knowing when to stop. You know, to me, I don't think a piece is ever finished.
No.
You know, you're always going to feel like you could have done something.
Yeah.
I could add something here. I could do something there. It's just a matter of deciding when to stop.
So you almost need that contest deadline.
Yeah.
It helps because I procrastinate till the end usually with most of my shots anyway. So I think I personally do it to myself, because when I'm in that amped up mode, it's on. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm doing it, and my wife knows. She sees it when I start getting to that mode of, okay, he's going to be working on this shot. I'm going to leave him alone because I know he's going to ignore anything and everything I'm saying right now. So I'm just going to let him finish, because she'll come out to my garage or whatever and see I'm in the middle of something, and she'll just, okay. and just
the mad scientist at work.
Knows that it's go time, and I'm working on it. And so I think I actually kind of, that's maybe why I push it off till the end, because I actually kind of like that challenge and pushing myself to see if I can get it done.
How funny! I actually like that too.
So then, when you put it out there and you let it go, is there feeling like, oh, or is it like, no, I want it back? There's still more.
Well, sometimes some shots I always am like, oh man, I wish I would have done this, or I'll see something and I'll be like, man, I can't believe I didn't see that. There's certain things you're just like, oh my God, how did I not see that? No one else sees it, but I do. So every time I see that picture, I will still see it. So I'm like, oh God,
I can have a little tunnel. You can get real tunnel vision working on a piece,
Yes.
especially if you work on it long enough. You get zeroed in on a particular part of it, and when you say it's done, like you're saying, people say, well, what about that part right there? And you're like, crap.
I want to see one more of those. Do we have time for one more of those? I think we do. We have a few more minutes. Like Corey, call up real quick. One more
Another
of the
little time lapse thing
how
here?
you create something.
I'm trying to think if there's another one that has, that one's a good one too, wax, because it's really involved because it's got a lot of parts
Okay.
to it.
Okay.
We're going to play this, all right? So.
This one again, the word was wax again. It's a scavenger hunt shot. You're going to find a good portion of my work is based off of this, because I'm always kind of shooting for it because it's a perpetual thing. So this one was, like I said, for the word wax. This one took a lot of different elements. So I had to take shots of the candle burning because I wanted a certain way that I wanted the
candles
wick.
going down and down.
Yeah, I wanted real wax dripping, so I kind of had to, shoot the wax on the chair without ruining the chair. So I had to shoot it. Also, I wanted an open collar line, so you'll see I've got a skeleton statue that I actually put it on so that I could get the collar open without my neck in it, so that I could properly get the candle in there, so it didn't look like I just stuck it in there, so I could get the edges of the neck properly.
How crafty.
So these are the things, like I said, that you have to think in advance when you're shooting before you even do the shot. And again, it goes back to the physics. I knew my neck, if I kept it in the shirt, I wouldn't be able to get under the collar where I needed to illuminate that area with the, with where the candle stuck through. So, thinking in those terms, it doesn't stall. For some reason, I turned off my, I forgot to turn off my my capture for a moment. So this one, and I had to lay on the ground to get the shot of my face in the same light, that was falling down. So again, it goes back to physics and knowing how light's going to fall, where it's going to fall, and again, just how all that relates. So then I'm, throwing highlights onto areas that would be illuminated, collar line, where the light would be falling to get the brightness of areas. And this one was another one that was fun to do, but took some time. And even with this one, the floor below me, I built that. That's just click and lock, floor panels that I bought. I don't have a wooden floor. I have bamboo floors in my house, but I didn't have a big open area that I could have shot it. So I bought a couple boxes of click and lock flooring, put that down. So that's the flooring underneath me. So, which I also used in another shot for Cobweb, which is one with has like a wheelchair and cobwebs all over it with a ghost in the background kind of look.
It kind of makes people shooting stuff in studios, look like slackers. I mean, because all of the dedication that you put into making this.
Well, and it's just, I like the way, because in the early part when you're shooting the parts. You're not shooting the whole scene. You're thinking about one part of it, the shirt, opening collar or something like that, and you're shooting that. And it's just like how it's going to get put together in your head, and
it's a puzzle.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is a puzzle, and it's what you do with the pieces before you even start putting them together. It's going to make a difference. If you took 3 different puzzle boxes and mix them together, well, you're not going to have the right pieces. But if you know that you're going to get the pieces right, then all the pieces fit together when you're done. So this one's a little bit of a longer one, because this one was another long edit. This was probably about a 6 or 7 hour edit on this one, easy.
But still, it's nice to be able to see the process that you do, and the fact that you put most of your work out there and showcase it like this so that we can see all of the steps in between, I think is great. So
absolutely.
It's been wonderful to have you on the grid, and we did a great interview earlier today, and I'm excited for people to see that. So It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah. So, and again, congratulations on getting the
Thank you.
Best of Show. Yeah, we'll hope to see you at next year's Photoshop World, I hope.
Yes, you will.
Of
Actually.
course, yeah.
And we have a couple of giveaways,
Oh, we
right,
do?
before we go.
We do. We actually have the great Peter Hurley right here. This is Peter Hurley's The Headshot. There, you see it right there. If you don't know Peter Hurley or his work, the man is just hilarious, and he is just really good with the headshot stuff. He actually was in our studio, and he did all of our headshots, I believe.
Yeah. So you're going to want a signed copy of that.
Yep.
And then also...
You also will get the Lightroom CC book for digital photographers right there by Scott Kelby. And this is the spiral bound copy. I don't know, we're giving away this one? Wow.
Yeah,
So
again,
this is
signed
a really
copy.
popular version is to have this because you can have it open, you know, whatever you like. So big, thick book there. So there you have it.
Nice.
And what else is there?
Nope, that's it for the giveaways. But the
all right.
Peach Pit deal is you get 40% off of the deal that you're about to see right here over on peachpit.com. So The Road to Seeing, it's an ebook. Excellent. And we're excited to give you the 40% off deal there. Also, what's coming out? We have the inspirational interview that I did with Roberto Valenzuela is coming out this
Roberto.
week. So he's releasing his new book this week, Picture Perfect Posing. So Picture Perfect Practice was his first book that came out, and it was like a #1. It was like a bestseller photography book on Amazon, wedding photography book. It was awesome.
Really great
And then
stuff.
so this is his second one, and we sat down for an inspirational interview. And I got to tell you, not only was he very inspiring, but he also gives some ideas to help you practice better at home and some things that you can work on. So there's actionable items that you can actionable things you can walk away from the interview with and do. So check that out.
He's got a lot of great, really experimental exercises.
He did not play guitar because this was before. If anybody saw the Photoshop World movie, our Wayne's World movie from Photoshop World, he kind of had a
little cameo there. Yeah,
awesome.
He's a classical guitar player.
I think it was
so-
probably the funniest cameo in the whole thing. It was
was-
very, very short, but it was hilarious.
perfect.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if I had known that he played guitar before that, I would have made him answer every question and sing song. So. Anyway, thank you for joining us. And next week, I think Scott and RC are back. So.
right.
Oh, that's right. How do you win these prizes that we
yes.
talked to you about?
Yeah, we're talking about prizes. How do you win them? You, of course, go to kelby1.com/contest. Go to the select grid, of course, in the menu. Enter your name, email, and that's it, pretty much. But leave us a comment, question, anything you'd like to see on the show, or question of something you've seen on the show. By all means, we'll do what we can to answer it. But there you go.
All right. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.